Hello, everyone. I hope you can see us and hear us today at the presentation that is going to be dedicated to the invoices in the oil field, industry. So my name is Nikolai, and I'm a VP of Sales and Marketing here at RigER. Today's topic is 8 ways of oilfield job invoicing in RigER. We know that some of you are already RigER users that are probably dying to learn more how to use the system more effectively, and that's exactly the webinar for you, especially when you deal with invoices. So today's agenda, in a nutshell, we'll do a quick intro of the topic, and we will be talking about the oilfield invoices and 8 ways of doing that in RigER. And among the ways listed here are the service invoices, the equipment rental invoices, the general equipment rental invoicing, the billing cycles, an interesting one as well, the rental invoice auto generation. So we'll talk about the automation of invoicing in RigER, the batch drilling, that's for the multi-pad invoicing, the multi-well invoicing, and the sub-invoicing and the master invoicing. So the panel of today's webinar is made of 3 people, as you can see. So Michael is our CEO, Gleb is VP Operations. Some of you who are our customers know these people really up and close. And also we have Arsene, who's our software consultant, who will be also talking on some of the topics on the reporting. So let's just move on to the next one. And a bit of an intro on RigER to those of you who have not been our customers. So RigER is a flagship product of the Belkasoft Corporation, and our core mandate and the focus of the product and the company is just to support the paperless enterprise, provide custom solutions for our customers, and promote integrations with the different applications as well, making sure that your operations run smoothly and interact with any different app that you're using in your operations. So RigER product family presented on this slide. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. Some of you are already using some of the products right here. Some may be looking forward to using them. So that includes mobile applications that are coming online later this spring. So let me pass the microphone to Michael, our CEO, and the head of product, who will start talking about the oilfield job invoicing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to RigER webinars, and I'm really excited to present you today's topic because today's topic is one of the core purpose of RigER, to generate invoice faster and smoother. So let's talk about a little bit like the items which we can see in oilfield invoices. So it could be a rental units, it could be a services, it could be parts. And one things which we call the complex units, which will be a combo kit, assemblies and packages. So we will not talking about this today. However, I'd like to mention that everything is possible to see to show in RigER invoices. In terms of document flow and the invoicing, the invoices are mainly accommodate all the actions, all the efforts of all the company and the organization. So from the quote to invoice, you see the entire connection and channels. So I would say that invoice is the end goal result for the entire document flow. So, and today we will talk about very simple invoices, oilfield services, and more a little bit adding complexity, oil field equipment, general equipment rentals. And the difference between those two, that oilfield equipment rentals is mostly daily based rental periods. General equipment rentals gives you an opportunity to have a flexible rental period, which could be a day, month, or week, or 4 weeks, if you wish. Batch drilling, it's another adding complexity when your client use a drilling program and you need to allocate the rental fees between different periods. And billing cycles and multi-well allocations, those things we will talk about today. Okay. So let's move forward and talk about the 8 ways of oilfield job invoicing in RigER, and we will talk about all kind of different invoices which we have right now in RigER. So we will start from the very, very beginning, very simple invoice. That's oilfield service invoices, and usually it's a document which collect the information from several delivery tickets. And the delivery tickets is pretty straightforward, where you have a services, number of hours, rates, and boom, you have a total numbers. So in RigER, we have a document called Rental Service Agreement, or RSA, which define the prices, and field tickets, which will define the services and quantities. And invoice will combine those two together. So Gleb, can you comment this one?
Yeah, this is an example of invoice generated for services only, and their information is taken out from the delivery tickets, multiple delivery tickets that we can generate in a row in the system according to the schedule that we can set previously. So on that particular invoice, we see that all the services in terms of, like, for example, tank transportation, tank cleaning are taken, and the prices are applied, multiplied by quantity, and we have a total amount for this invoice.
Yeah, this is a very simple job, and you see there is no. And usually, it's not a big deal to build this invoice, even in accounting systems. If we talk about rentals services, so some of the rental job can have the services itself, and we can take all those services from the delivery ticket and multiple delivery tickets and generate invoice based on that. And let's see how it's done in RigER.
Let's take a look at our rental service agreement with the equipment, forklift and generator, with the quantities and rental per day prices. And also we have a services, delivery and pickup services for each equipment, with also quantities and prices included. And we have two delivery tickets. The first delivery ticket is for delivering of the equipment to the client's location, with a quantity and services included, like a delivery with quantity 1. And also we have a delivery ticket return upon the return of the equipment, with the services of pick up the equipment. From the rental service agreement, we can generate a service invoice. We click on the service invoice and we choose the date of the invoice, click generate. And a newly generated service invoice will take all the services from the delivery tickets only, with the quantities, prices, and total amount, including taxes.
Yeah, as you see, it's a very simple thing. Let's come to the second invoices, rental invoices, when we do the oilfield equipment rentals. And here we have a little bit complexity when we add a start date and end date and calculate the rental period as a difference between those 2 days. And this information will be in a delivery ticket start and delivery ticket end. Different companies use the different names for those delivery tickets start. For example, it could be rig up, rig out, or delivery. But let's use the start and end as a universal terms, and the same approach. So we take the equipment information and quantity from the delivery tickets, and price information from the rental service agreement, and build the invoice. Sometimes there is a situation when you send a field technician to the field and you have no idea what kind of equipment they will use. So, and in RigER, we can fill out the information from delivery ticket to RSA and add items to RSA. So the salesperson or price management needs to be confirmed. But the same, the situation will be pretty much the situation will be pretty much the same. So we will generate invoice based on that. So let's see how it works in RigER.
Now let's take the same rental service agreement and let's assume that the customer has requested the invoice with the rental fee and service charges both included. We have the same delivery tickets with equipment and services provided, and we go to RSA, click Rental Invoice, Generate, and we select the date of the invoice, click Generate. And newly generated invoice has both rental fees and service charges from the delivery tickets. And rental charges are calculated based on the dates from the delivery ticket, start and end date, and multiplied by the daily rental fee. So the rental invoice has both, again, rental fees and service fees calculated with taxes included.
Good. Thank you, Gleb. So, and let's move forward and talk about general rentals invoicing. And the general rentals invoicing a little bit differ from oil field rentals because we have a multi-rental period approach when we can have a different rental periods, monthly, weekly, and daily. And this period and the question of what kind of period will be applied depends on the number of days between end date and start date. So it could be a monthly fee, or it could be weekly fee or daily fee, depending on that. And definitely we'll have a different prices for different rental periods and quantity, as usually we will take from the delivery tickets, and we will generate invoice. So Gleb, can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, on that particular example, we have general rentals invoice, and we see that the system can automatically pick the necessary rental period depending on the metrics that we can set in the system. So we can apply different number of days for a particular period. Say we can consider 5 days rentals for a weekly periods, and the system analyzes that metrics and applies the right rental period and prices of this period to the rental equipment.
Good. Next thing, some clients ask us to have not only the rental periods but the billing cycle. So the billing cycles is a specific period when we send invoice to the client, and it could be a different billing cycles. It could be bi-weekly, or it could be monthly. Usually we do monthly billing cycles, but it really depends. It could be a different, we have clients which have different billing cycles for the same location. So actually the invoicing could be very complicated, and we rise in complexity. As you see, we're rising complexity right now, and let me show you how the billing cycle works in RigER.
The billing cycle feature allows companies to generate invoices for a particular number of days. For each RSA, you can set a billing cycle, or you can set a default billing cycle for every new rental service agreement. In our case, we have 28 days billing cycle. The benefit of having 28 days billing cycle is that in a year period, the company can have 13 billing periods rather than 12 billing periods in a monthly billing cycles. Now let's assume that we have a job and we need to generate the first invoice for the billing cycle starting from April 1st. So I generate a new invoice, rental invoice, and I select the date of the invoice as April 30th. I click generate, and the rental invoice calculates automatically the billing cycle days, and it's 28 days, and I just post invoice. And if I want to generate a next invoice for the next billing cycle, I go to RSA, click on generate, rental invoice, and let's assume that my date will be May 30th. So the new invoice will automatically generate and calculates the next billing cycle dates. It's from April 29 till May 26, so it's total 28 days, and it calculates the total amount with taxes included.
Yeah, as you see, the billing cycle calculated based on the previous date. So and it's moving forward. This is what we have as a majority and the very simple invoices for the rental side. And definitely when you have ongoing jobs and when you have everything set up, you can run automatic invoice generation. Say here we have a couple of the rental jobs and we'd like to invoice them. So what we can do, we can apply an invoice generator document and say define the billing date and run the invoice. So the invoice will automatically take and calculate the rental period. And it will calculate rental period from the starting date of the rental job, or from the previous invoice, so from the last billing date. So let's see how it works in RigER.
To generate multiple invoices at a time, we go to Oilfield Rentals menu and we open Rental Invoice Generation tool. Now we have to generate a new document, and we select the date of this document first. Say it will be March 31st, and we select the invoice date. Again, it will be March 31st. We can either post invoices that will be generated, or if we uncheck this mark, we just generate invoices. We can check the correctness and accuracy of these invoices and then post them one by one, or we can post them right away after the generation. Now, when we're ready, we click on Generate, and all the invoices for March 31st are generated for all the RSAs that have the open billing period.
And you see, this is a very, very robust and easiest way how to generate invoices for ongoing jobs. And I can tell you, this cut invoicing time number of times. It's just a speed up and streamline the invoicing process. And usually when you do and use this rental invoice generation tool oftenly, it's not a big deal. And in many cases, our clients just skip this and post those invoices automatically. And even they can automatically send those invoices to the client. Another problem with which Oilfield rental invoice generation tool can solve, it will be invoicing ongoing rental jobs with different billing cycles. Say, for example, we have 5 different rental jobs with different stages and different billing cycles, and we have a billing date, say, this Friday. It will be a billing date for like normally. So what we can do, we can run the rental invoice generation tool, and it will calculate next billing period, the billing cycles, and see what kind of job we can invoice today. And as you see, we can invoice job number 1, number 3, and number 5. Job number 2 and number 4 will be invoiced next billing date. And the rental invoice generation will produce 3 invoices, and we can send them to the clients right after that. The next step is like we a little bit rise the complexity. It's a batch drilling. The batch drilling, it's terms from the drilling program where we have a rental package provided to the drilling rig, and the oil company or a drilling company give us intervals or dates or batch drilling schedule and give us a well number, starting date, end date, and show us where we need to invoice this particular period of time. So in this case, we do the same invoice. However, we add one more schedule as a batch drilling schedule. And let us, Gleb, show us how the batch drilling invoice looks like.
Yeah, that's actually the feature that allows to allocate rental fees and service charges across the wells on the pad. So in the rental service agreement, we just specify and we activate the batch drilling tool, and we specify to what wells all the charges should be allocated to. And right from the rental service agreement, we can specify what the start and end date at each well. And we can generate invoices right from here. So all the 3 invoices for 3 wells will be generated accordingly. And we can go into each of these invoices and check all the details, check the dates, rates, etc. So it's just, again, automation tool that allows you to generate invoices much quicker.
Good. Thank you. So one of the problem which can appear when we have this a batch drilling approach, that a rental period which we calculated a start and difference between start and end date could be different from the batch drilling schedule. So in this case, we can have a gap days or some missing days, missing invoicing days, which we need to restore and address to our client and ask what we need to do. And to prevent that and to show that, we build a specifically report, the batch gap days analysis report, which will show us what we're missing. Say, for example, we have the schedule provided by client, and we have our rental period, and we see, okay, from say, for example, in this particular case, January 25th missing, and 24 days from January 27 to February 19th not covered by batch drilling. So we can send this report to the client and ask, okay, where we need to invoice those particular days or what we will do. So again, it's a starting point for the negotiation with the client, or in some cases, it's a good tool to understand that we miss to build something. The next step is a multi-well invoicing, and a multi-well invoicing is a specific invoice, one invoice when we have a different allocation rules, how the invoice allocated between different wells in the same pad. So we call it a multi-well RSA, and we add the list of wells with all EFE numbers, CC numbers, PO numbers for each well. And then we will set up the well allocation rules, how the particular line needs to be allocated, or it could be evenly allocated between different wells, or it could be allocated line by line. So, Gleb.
Yeah, and that's actually the visual example of the multi-well invoice. So in order to produce this kind of invoice, this type of invoice actually, you have to check mark the multi-well option on the right-hand side from the date of the document, as you can see. And then we go to the last tab on this invoice, and we can fill out all the wells pertains to this location. And we can set the allocation rule. It can be by price or by quantity. And we can set even the percentage of the allocation to each well. It can be allocated evenly between all the wells, or can manually set the proportion for each well. And also, we have not shown this on the screen, but in the rental fee, if we'll go to this tab, we'll be able to specify the particular well to each we charge the rental equipment or the services.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Another, the most complex thing could be when we have same situation, but client asking to have a separate invoice for every single well. In this case, we do pretty much the same thing. However, we build a master invoice, and based on master invoice, we build a sub-invoices for each well. For example, in this case, we have 4 well in the master invoice, and we set up the well allocation rules, and it could be by period or by line. By line, it will pretty much the same which we had in previous example. And for the by period, we set up the well allocation. We select what kind of rule we will do, and in this case, we selected rule number 4, and it will be allocate the amount by quantity. We have 2 types, by quantity and by price. And for example, here we have the well number 6H. And here we will set up the allocation rule, how the a particular amount should be allocated between wells. Right now, we have evenly, everything goes to the well number 6. And here we can set up different intervals, a different start and end date. So in this particular case, we have 2 days, which will go, like the entire invoice will go to this particular well. And at the end of the transaction, when we generate all those invoices, we'll see that based on rental invoice number 293, we generated 4 invoices: 297, 298, 299, and 300. So, and total amount of each of those invoices will be the amount of the master invoice. And you see that we posting only those green check marks showing that we're posting only sub invoices and not posting the master invoices. Master invoices always unposted.
And Michael, let me add just quickly, just jumping a little bit ahead, we will transfer those invoices, sub invoices that are posted into the billing systems, external billing systems or accounting systems, not the master invoice itself.
That's right, and that was the purpose of the allocation, because each sub invoice will be sent it to the could be sent it to the different person for the approval. We coming to middle of our webinar, and we're ready to answer your questions.
Thank you, Michael and Gleb. Yeah, it's been pretty informative, I guess, first half, and I know there's been a lot to digest. So I encourage everyone who's on the call today, among our participants, to answer any questions. And I have one specific question from Andy, and that question speaks to our results as follows. You've showed a lot of ways to show the invoices, but what if our invoice form is different? How is it going to look like? Is it going to look the same, or we have to use your form?
That's actually the good question, because sometimes the new clients of RigER are a little bit frustrated with these extensive electronic forms of the documents, and they don't quite understand what will be the final result that will be sent to the customer. And we have an ability to customize the print form of the document pretty much extensively, because all the information that we have in the system, in the electronic documents, like all the dates, quantities, rates, information about the client, and etc. So all these fields that you see in your program can be included in the final print form, or can be just hidden from actually the print form. So it's absolutely up to you how you'd like to see the print form of the invoice, and RigER allows us to customize these forms and to include all the necessary details, maybe add some pictures or some comments to the form. So yeah, you just need to understand that first you do the invoice in the program, and then you print this invoice and send to your client. So your client doesn't see actually the system.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Gleb. And indeed, I think the key thing, I just kind of to add to what Gleb has just said, Andy, is that all invoices and all the other forms in the system are customizable. And when we do the setup, we do look at what the form should look like, and you'll get what you need it to look like. Okay.
All right. Now that we've covered the invoicing part, let me just talk about the revenue reports that we have in the system. Some of the revenue reports. The first report is going to be the revenue by periods report. This is a report that will allow you to do reporting based on different time periods. You can select from year to months breakdown up until to week to days breakdown, and it has a different kind of variations. So it will provide you with a detailed information based on the variation that you have selected. The next report is a simple report, but it's still informative. It will provide you with the information of how much revenue generates each of your clients, and you will have the total amount below. Another extensive in-depth report, which is based on sorting, and you can select the sorting. And in this case, as you can see, our sorting is based on client, location, and item, and it will provide the detailed breakdown of the revenue, of how it's generated, and which client generates how much. As the name suggests, this report is the top 10 of everything that has the capacity to generate revenue. It also can show you the amounts if you select the checkbox. And the revenue ABC analysis report, it's basically breaking down your revenue from the most to the least important categories, and you can see how much of each company or each client or each salesperson or even each item generates revenue in your inventory. Estimated revenue reports, as the name suggests, it will provide you with the information to see how much revenue you are going to have from particular clients, from particular locations, and it will even break down up until to single documents. And the last one I'd like to talk about is the equipment revenue report, which is a report that will show you the information of how much revenue each piece of your equipment generates.
Okay, thank you very much, Arsen. Before we go to the next section of our presentation, let me just ask a quick question. What if our client will miss some kind of analytics in the system, or they will not find a kind of reports that they'd like to analyze? Is it possible to create a new reports and upon the requirements of the client?
Yes, definitely. We do it every day, and we add, I would say, one report per week, and we always improving quality of our reporting tools. And actually, we will have a webinar about analytics in RigER. It will be end of April, like April 25th, and 2 weeks from now. And we will in-depth talk about all the reporting tools and how you can build it. And moreover, one of the good thing about RigER reports, you can export vast majority of the reports to Excel, clicking one button at the top of the report.
Okay, thank you. So let's go forward to the next section of our presentation, which is the best practices. And here I can cover one of the examples that we saw in the client's operations. So it was a real life scenario when the client has calculated the invoice manually in the Excel, for example, or if someone is using a QuickBooks system, it actually a little bit helps. But again, if the invoices are generated and calculated in the invoice using just the analog calculators, so the errors can appear. And we saw the situation when the invoice has been generated manually, and on the same on one invoice, we actually saw that the rental days have been calculated wrongly. So the company just lost some of the rental days from the rental period. And when we saw the next invoice just missed 1,000 of revenue out of almost 10,000. So the company lost about 10% revenue just on one invoice, because it has been generated manually and calculated manually. So when we implement RigER system to the clients, we usually suggest to rely on the system in terms of calculating everything properly, because it has inbuilt mechanisms and calculation rules, how it actually calculates. The only thing that all the people in the company should take care of is putting the right information into the rental service agreements and delivery tickets and field tickets, because those documents fit actually the invoice with all the details. So again, when we see the situation when accountant is just taking everything in her or his hands and trying to calculate the invoice, it means and something appears not really correct, it means that some information is missing on delivery tickets or rental service agreement.
Yeah, indeed. I remember my time when I was a CFO of the rental company. We always see that the accounts payable, accounts receivable role is more stressful and challenging because you need to, find all the information to build the right invoice regarding prices, regarding starting end date, moving of the equipment, swap of the equipment, rental breaks, rig movement notes, lots of different things which we not covered today, even because we have a very limited time, and maybe we will touch these sensitive points next couple of webinars. But the general recommendation for the invoicing, as you saw, that it could be a very complex thing, and be very, very accurate with the entering data, and just try to make the accounting life easier, because they work hard. This is true. And when we generate invoices, we which is the one of the goal of our system, we send them to the accounting, and we right now have several integrations with Sage, QuickBooks, and Microsoft Dynamics. It depends on the system. It could be one-way or two-way integrations, and usually we send purchase invoices, sales invoices, rental invoices, and credit memos. And if we talk about e-billing integrations, the system like Open Invoice and Cortex, we use our partner Enter My Invoice, and we send rental invoices with attachments with those systems, and definitely it speed up the processing time and increase accuracy of the data moving from one system to another. And I'd like to invite you to the next webinar, which will focus on the integration, RigER integrations, join us next week.
If you happen to be in Houston on those days, we will be there. We will be more than happy to meet in person and discuss any issues and how we can help you and your business if need be. And we also are available for any questions if there aren't any more questions for today over email, or any other channel that you can reach. So go to our website, rigor.us or rigor.ca. There's a phone number and there's an email that is support@rigor.ca or support@rigor.us. And we will be able to get in touch with you as soon as possible and answer any questions. So I'm just kind of seeing if there's any more question, and I don't think there are any. So that concludes our today's session. It's been pretty packed. We appreciate your time. We are just 3 minutes to an hour, so that's a good thing. We appreciate your patience and bearing with us through this intensive session. So thank you, and be sure to join our next week for the integrations, RigER integrations webinar, where we're going to be talking about our integrations, and specifically the DocuSign integration.
Yeah, thank you so much, and see you next week.
Have a great day.